Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Thank you, Ramapati Prabhu. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramhamsa Parvikacharya Ashtrasha Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramhamsa Parvikacharya Ashtrasha Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Prabhupada. Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam Devam saraswatim vyasam Tato jayam urdayet Nasta presu bhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavat uttama shloke Bhaktir bhavati nashtaki Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya So this morning we'll be reading from the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, Text 70. Rupa, Peshala, Madhurya, Saugandhya, Priya, Darshana, Strinam, Priyatatamo, Nityam, Mataha, Swapura, Lampata, Rupa Peshala Madhurya, Saugandhya Priyadarshanaha, Strinam Priyatamo Nityam, Mata Swapura Lampata, Rupa Peshala Madhurya, Saugandhya Priyadarshanaha, Strinam Priyatamo Nityam, Mata Swapura Lampata. Vera Chandra Prabhu, would you like to chant? Anyone online would like to chant?
Rupa Peshala Madhurya Saugandhya Priyadarshanaha Strinam Priyatamo Nityam Matasva Puralampataha.
Anyone else?
Rupa Peshala Madhurya Saugandhya Priyadarshanaha Strinam priyatamo nityam Matta shapura lampataha.
Rupa, beauty. Peshala, formation of the body. Madhurya, attractiveness. Saugandhya, very fragrant, being decorated with various flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. Priya darshanaha, very beautiful to see. Strinam, of the women. Priyatamaha, naturally attracted. Nityam, daily. Mataha, proud like a madman. Swapura, in his own city. Lampataha, very much attached to women because of lusty desires. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I had a beautiful face. Who's speaking? Narada Muni. I had a beautiful face and a pleasing, attractive bodily structure, decorated with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. I was most pleasing to the women of my city. Thus I was bewildered, always feeling lusty desires. Purport. From the description of the beauty of Narada Muni, when he was one of the descendants of Gandharvaloka, it appears that everyone on that planet is extremely beautiful and pleasing, and always decorated with flowers and sandalwood. Upabarhana was Narada Muni's name previously. Upabarhana was specifically expert in decorating himself to attract the attention of women, and thus he became a playboy, as described in the next verse. To be a playboy in this life is unfortunate, because too much attraction to women will lead one to fall into the association of śūdras, who can easily take advantage of mingling with women without restriction. In this present age of Kali, when people are manda sumanda mataya, very bad because of a śūdra mentality, such free mingling is prominent. Among the higher classes, Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, there is no chance for men to mingle with women freely. But in the śūdra community, such mingling is open. Because there is no cultural education in this age of Kali, everyone is spiritually untrained, and everyone is therefore to be considered śūdra. Ashuddha, śūdra kalpa, hi brahmana kali sambhava. When all the people become śūdras, certainly there are very bad manda sumanda mataya. Thus they manufacture their own way of life, with the result that they gradually become unfortunate, manda bhagya, and therefore they are always disturbed by various circumstances. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapara Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusita Devi Pranamami Hare Pre Vancha Kalpatribhyascha Kripasin Bhievacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada, he analyzed the situation very nicely, and he made a comparison that men are like butter and women are like fire. What happens when the butter gets close to the flame? it melts. I told this story a few times, but I think it's a very proper example. I had a friend, he was going to cancel his gym membership. He said, "Can you go with me?" I said, "Sure." And the person in the counter was a, young man. You can tell he works out. And then when he found out he was going to cancel his membership, he said, "Just a minute." He went to the back and he brought this attractive lady, And then I was hearing their conversation, and instead of canceling the membership, he extended his membership. And then when we got outside, I asked him, "Mikey, what happened?" He said, "I just couldn't say no." So men, if you're not strong, if you don't know what this value of human life is, you become a victim to women. And Srila Prabhupada, he says, you become like a plaything in the hands of a woman. And on book distribution, unfortunately, you see that. The man he's interested in getting a book, but then he sees the woman leaving, And not to disrupt anything in their relationship, he follows like a puppy. Srila Prabhupada, he says, since time immemorial, people have been interested in 4 things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And everyone in this material world, they're being pierced by the arrows of Cupid. Everyone's trying to look for love. And, sometimes we go to stores, Sprouts or whatever. And you hear these songs, and they mostly speak of 3 things. 1 is getting a woman. 2, being with the woman. Or 3, losing a woman. So how is that conducive to being happy, But we're not against relationships, but this materialistic relationship, that's what we're. And here we can see, even in the heavenly world, realm, the citizens there, they're being manipulated by the beauty of each other. But Krishna, he is known as Madan Mohan. Sankarshan, do you know what that means, Prabhu? Madan Mohan? Does someone have a mic?
Lecture this morning, getting up. Madana Mohan means he who attracts even Cupid, or bewilders even Cupid.
Exactly. That's how beautiful Krishna is. In the Brahma Samhita, it's described that Krishna is served by millions of Cupids, or goddesses of Lakshmi, goddesses of fortune. But instead of turning our attention to Krishna, we have turned to this phantasmagoria of this material world. And so here we see the mundane vision, the mundane situation, the mundane exchanges between man and a woman. And the propensities to enjoy this body, because everyone thinks I'm this body, and the goal of life is to satisfy this body. And so what is it about this world that makes it so captivating, so attractive, so glamorous? And although we see and we understand that everything comes to an end, there's still something within the mind that thinks, maybe I can enjoy in this world. And so it says, naturally, this attraction between man and a woman is there in all species of life. Before I was watching on the airplane, if you're having a long flight, sometimes they give you free movies or whatever. And I was watching a documentary of, animals. And a peacock, it tries to attract the woman of a female peacock by expanding its feathers, And even there's certain birds where they do certain types of dance to attract the opposite sex. So naturally, in the human species, we do several things, Get a nice car to attract this person. We gel up our hair, We put perfume or cologne on. So similarly, the human species is not different from the animal species. But what makes the human species different is that now we can try to inquire or understand what is the goal of life, what is permanent, what is Brahman. And New Year's Eve, the devotees, we went to downtown San Diego, Harinam, gas lamp district. It was nice, you know, we were chanting the holy names, random people were joining, dancing with us. And Mukunda Charna Prabhu, he brought that sign, you know, so they know what we're chanting. And at one point, Francisco, he was holding the sign towards the restaurants. But I was looking towards the street, and I told him, Francisco, turn around. So he turned around, and the people that were passing by in their cars, they all saw the mantra, you know. They were taking pictures. And I was able to distribute some invitation cards to them. But, you know, once we become a Vaishnava or a Vaishnavi, our vision changes, our vision is corrected. Most people, when they see this mayhem in downtown, they think, oh, everyone's enjoying, everyone's drinking, you know, everyone's dancing. But for a devotee, we see it as something very pathetic, very, very desperate, very silly, actually. And so the men and women, they dress in such a way they try to capture each other's attention. And in the 6th canto, Narada Muni, he describes an unsteady intelligence to be like a professional prostitute. And I'll read what Srila Prabhupada said in that purport. A woman who has no husband declares herself independent, which means that she becomes a prostitute. A prostitute generally dresses herself in various fashions, intended to attract a man's attention to the lower part of her body. Today, it has become a much advertised fashion for a woman to go almost naked, covering the lower part of her body only slightly, in order to draw the attention of a man to her private parts for sexual enjoyment. In the early days, there was a mother of a Mataji devotee. She had joined the temple. And she told Srila Prabhupada, why are you asking my daughter to get married? She hasn't experienced, you know, life, what life is about, you know. And you're asking her to stay with one man. Srila Prabhupada made a comment that just see, even the mother wants her daughter to be a prostitute. You know. So this is Kali Yuga. So when the devotees see this activities, you know, going on, we can't help but just want to try to shake them out of this illusion, you know, that you're actually not enjoying, you're actually suffering. Just when we were making a right, there was this lady on the phone. It wasn't even close to midnight, you know. She was already crying. She was yelling, ah, you know. And then she had tears in her eyes. And when we were passing by, I just felt this deep sense of compassion. So, and I remember where we stopped that corner. You know, these clubs, they have these big windows, you know. They try to entice people, come and join. You know, you can see the fog, the disco lights, or whatever they call it, strobe lights. And a materialistic person sees that and says, you know, let's lighten up. Let's be one of those. But for the devotees, for me, what I saw was just a house packed full of animals. You know, and you know, they're trying to find love or happiness in this world. Maharaja's son, Nilamadhava Prabhu, he was raised in the Gurukul system. And when he went to middle school, he was very shocked. You know, he was very shocked. What he seen, what he heard, the type of music people listened to. And he said it was too much for him, that he was only able to last in a public school for a year. And then he said when he was interacting with these public schools, he said the kids, they were just like wild animals, you know. Because in Gurukul, they teach you how to speak properly, they teach you manners, they teach you to be in this servant mood, you know. But in that middle school, everyone was just speaking whimsically, everyone was, you know. So I understood how important our mission is. We try to change the consciousness of everyone that we meet. And it brings me to the pastime of a jawmill. The jawmill, he was born in a good family, but due to seeing this prostitute in the forest, he couldn't get this image out of his mind. A couple. You know, they were embracing Srila Prabhupada, so they were basically having sex in the forest. And he couldn't get this out of his mind, and he went to search out for this prostitute. And he became very fallen, even at the age of, I think he was, how old was he? 80? 80 years old. He still had a young son. And at that age, people should naturally give up, 87. Naturally, people give up household life, you know, you're done. 50 years of enjoying with your wife, you know. But you can tell he was so sinful. Even at that old age, he still had lusty desires, and he was able to begot a young child. But due to his training, due to the holy name, he chanted Narayan. And without even thinking of Krishna himself, just by chanting or uttering the name Narayan, he was saved from the Yamadutas. And he got a second chance. Lord Rishabhadev, he said, due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about his real self-interest. The Srimad Bhagavatam, it helps us to stay sober-minded, to be clear-minded. You know, it reminds us what happens when we pursue a life directed by lust. You know, it won't end well, so don't do that. So the Bhagavatam, it's so informative and it's very practical. Srila Prabhupada, he says that sex life is the shackles that binds us here to the material world. And in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Rishabhadev's teachings to his sons, he confirms that. He says, when a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. Srila Prabhupada, we were reading upstairs with the devotees from ISV, and we were reading the Lilamrita. And, you know, it was a whole bunch of like hippies on LSD. They went to India and, you know, they were taught, yeah, you need to smoke ganja to experience the higher consciousness. And so these Westerners, when they came back to the US, that's what they told everybody. You need to get high to experience, you know, spirituality. And then this one man, he was challenging Srila Prabhupada. He said, have you ever done LSD? You know, how do you know it doesn't give you a higher happiness? And Srila Prabhupada stayed quiet, and then he let the person speak. And then Srila Prabhupada said, my students, my disciples, they were all LSD heads, you know. They experienced all of that. Now they have given that up because they experienced something higher. And then the person stayed quiet, and he knew these were hippies, you know. They were acid and LSD and, you know. And so Srila Prabhupada, he gave us something wonderful. He gave us the chanting of the holy names. He gave us the 4 regulative principles of freedom. I love that, you know. Usually people, when they hear restrictions, they think of a negative, you know, thing about it. But for devotees, it's actually positive. And when one engages in devotional service, you know, by purification, he loses taste of the things that we used to do in the past. And the whole process of devotional service is the reason why Srila Prabhupada came to the West, to purify us. I remember when I was a kid, when you see an insect, you just think, oh, anyway. And then when you understand karma, and then you become a little more thoughtful of your actions. When Pandu, Maharaj, King Pandu, the father of the Pandavas, he was hunting one day, and he was able, I think it was him or Maharaj Dasharat, by sound, they can trace that sound and they can shoot the arrow and it'll go to that. And so he was hunting in the forest one day, and he shot a deer. But this deer, he was disguised. He was actually a rishi or a sage, and he wanted to have intercourse with his wife in the open, in the forest. And usually that's frowned upon, so they took forms of deers. And he shot this deer while he was having intercourse. And this deer transformed to the rishi or the sage, and he cursed Pandu. He said, just like you're killing me while I'm having intercourse, you shall die when you have intercourse with your wives, like that. So King Pandu, he kept this in mind, and he was very anxious, because as a king, you want progeny to continue the dynasty. And so he had a dilemma. How will he have children, with Madri and Kunti Devi? And when Queen Kunti was little, she was serving Durvasa Muni very nicely. So he gave this boon: I'm going to teach you this mantra. And by this mantra, you can invoke any demigod you like. So just to see the potency of this mantra, she chanted it. And who did she call out? The sun god. And she was able, but the sun god, Surya, he assured her that while you're having a child, you keep your womanhood. You're still a virgin. And so that first child, what was his name? Does anyone know? Huh? Karna. But she was very young, she was unmarried, so she put Karna in this basket and, put him in the river. It's like Moses. And then when she was married to King Pandu, she remembered this boon, and then she told King Pandu this. And then King Pandu was very pleased. He said, please let us call one of the gods, demigods. And the person they wanted to invoke was Dharmaraj, Yamaraj. He said, please let us have a noble son that can lead the people to righteousness. So they invoked Yamaraj, and then the child that came out was Yudhishthira Maharaj. And then he said, let us have another son, someone who's strong. Let us call Vayu, the wind god. And then Bhima was born. And then the third son, he said, let us call Indra, and that was Arjuna. And then King Pandu and Kunti Devi, they got kind of caught up. They said, let's have another. And then, but I forgot who it was. Yeah, Madri also wanted to have children. She was childless, but she was shy to approach Kunti Devi because, they were co-wives. So Pandu asked Kunti Devi, and she actually taught the mantra to Madri, and then they invoked the twins, the Ashvini twins, yeah. And so this way, they wanted noble sons. Now people just have children, out of lust or attraction. And when the Pandavas grew up, you can imagine how wonderful they were, Dronacharya, he was so pleased with Arjuna, Arjuna's behavior, his determination to understand archery, things like that. Okay, 823. So it says that there are certain things that causes bewilderment. Here, Narada Muni is saying beauty causes bewilderment. And in the Hitopadesh, it says that wealth also causes bewilderment. When one has it in prosperity, it bewilders him. He does so many silly things with it. And then he ends up wasting it. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says there is something else that causes bewilderment. Anger. He says from anger, complete delusion arises. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. But this world, everyone is advocating, get plastic surgery, get this makeup, It's interesting because sometimes on book distribution, people get really close to you. And then sometimes if they're Matajis, you just see like this thick layer of like makeup and you're just wondering like, how do you look behind that, So yeah, they can hide, whatever. But Srila Prabhupada used this example that a person may be very beautiful, but if they don't possess good qualities, they're like a flower with no fragrance. And I've read that women that are attracted to a handsome man with bad qualities is like flies attracted to garbage. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says that anyone that tries to enjoy materialistic life is like a worm in the stool. For a devotee, we don't take part in that. But someone who's not a devotee, they pursue this in a very mad way. And so it mentions that the people of this age, they're manda sumanda, matayo, that they're very bad and they're very lazy. And this free mingling is very prominent. I remember when I first started coming to the temple, I saw this separation between men and women. And I really appreciated that, If you're a young lady and you come here, it's nice that you sit with the other ladies. But I remember when I was going to church, the young men, they would try to sit with the girls and nobody would stop them, It was natural. But as for devotees, we try to understand that this mingling business, it's not actually a proper thing to do. Okay, so I'll end with some Sankirtan stories. There was a Hispanic family from Argentina, and they came to my table, and I was showing them some books. And the mother pointed at the SSR, and then she said, he appeared to me in my dream. Yeah, the super soul. I said, this person appeared to me. And then she said, I have to get this book. And she asked me, who is this person? I said, his name is the Paramatma, the super soul within all of our hearts. And I said, but the source of the super soul is Krishna, like that. And then she said, he was very beautiful, he was very bright, Maybe she was looking for the word effulgent. And then she said, I want to get this book, I want to learn more about this person, like that. So, and then the husband, I asked him, you look like a deep thinker. You like to think about life. He said, I do. So I gave him the Bhagavad Gita. And they gave a nice donation. And then as they were walking away, the child, she said, I want to get a book too. So I gave her chant and be happy. And then she was holding the book. Yeah, I got a book. So we make small differences in the people that we meet. And yeah, I spaced out. So I was flagging down this one person, Eduardo, if you're watching. He said, Hare Krishna. And I said, how do you know about Hare Krishna? So he said, oh, I watched your classes. I watched the devotees classes, Balaram, like he started naming them. He said, although I don't live at the temple, I watched the classes, the discourses. And then he gave $20. He said, I want to help with the book distribution, like that. And then I haven't seen him, and he said he hasn't been here. His name is Eduardo. And then, huh? No. Not the one that we gave a book to. And then, so after he gave me the Lakshmi, I tried giving him a book to, distribute to somebody, and he took it. And speaking of Shudras, I was trying to get this person's attention, and he said yoga meditation. As he was walking by, he said drugs, drugs, drugs. I was all in his mind just to get high, And then I asked him, come back, let me speak to you for a minute. He said, no. He said, drugs, drugs, drugs. And I said, you'll mess up your brain. He said, that's okay. And he just kept walking. So, I met this really nice family. When was that? Tuesday. I was packing up, and then the mother, she was holding a stroller. And I called her over, and she said, my husband gave me this book, Bhagavad Gita. And I told her, now you're ready for this book, Science of Self-Realization. And then after a few moments, the husband came, and they say, hey, how are you? A long time no see. He was a black body, and then I faintly remembered him. And then he said, yeah, I got this book from you. I wanted to give it to my wife. And I said, now you guys can read this book together, Science of Self-Realization. And as we were speaking, they said, we never spoke to anyone about this before, What is the goal of life? Why is there suffering? Why are there different species of life? And it was really nice. And then I told them, I'm sorry, I have to head back to the temple. I invited them to the temple, the Christian lounge, the different events that we have. And then he said, is it okay if we give you a donation? I said, please, you can give anything you like. There's no minimum and there's no maximum. And so he reached in his wallet and he gave a very nice donation. And he said, I always appreciated what you guys do. And he knows about the devotees. And then so the wife, she was asking this question before I left. She said, is it okay to forgive someone who hurt you? People go through a lot of things. And I said, of course, it's very healthy. But does it mean that you should keep forgiving the person? And that's all, that makes you a fool. So she took that to heart, and then she said, and I told her, but better is to forget also, don't keep a grudge. And then she said, that was my next question, She said, what if I hold bad feelings about this person? And I said, you forgive and you let go, And I said, it's very simple, but that's one of the only ways to, move on. And she said, thank you very much. And while I was walking away, I was just thinking about how, what type of situations people have in this world. And for devotees, we may have difficulties, we may have challenges, but it's nothing like the people from the outside. So we should always keep in mind the great gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the 6 Goswamis, all the previous acharyas. And if it wasn't for them, we would have still been like those people in downtown, trying to find happiness in alcohol and illicit relationships and this and that. Okay, thank you for your time. Are there any questions or comments, reflections?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. It's nice to hear from you.
Thank you very much, you're most kind. May I?
Yes, please.
Yes. Do you mind reading again the last sentence of the translation?
Thus I was bewildered, always feeling lusty desires.
Yes, that is the sentence. Thank you very much, you're most kind. Prabhu, based on this sentence, my question is, if association with women causes for us to become bewildered and always feeling lusty desires, my question is, why did Srila Prabhupada allow women to live in his ISKCON temples? That is my question.
Srila Prabhupada would be criticized for so many things, you know. You're a sannyasi, why do you allow marriages? You know, you're turning these Westerners into Brahmins, you're training them how to be Brahmins. And like that, why do you allow women to, you know. But Srila Prabhupada, he understood the instructions of his spiritual master, which was to spread Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada, he did many things that, according to rules and regulations, he shouldn't have come to the West, you know. But he did out of compassion and mercy, and anything to spread Krishna consciousness he would do. You know, he understood that the mindset of the Western people, they were very addicted to, you know, relationships. So he allowed marriages. So at least that way they were protected. But he performed the marriage ceremonies. But we should always keep in mind the bigger picture. It's not just, you know, men and women, but, and also without women, there would be no next generation of devotees, you know. And most of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers, they were householders. But if someone is controlled by lusty desires, that's actually counterproductive. So Srila Prabhupada, despite being criticized and, you know, he wanted to spread Krishna consciousness whatever way he could. I hope that answered your question, Vijay Prabhu.
Yes, it did answer my question in full. Thank you very much.
I think, thank you. Dravida Prabhu has something to add.
Just one comment on that. When that came up, most of you are aware of the pioneering work of the three couples who went to Britain in '68. And he would often point to how wonderful they preached, and they were able to approach the Beatles and start the whole yatra there, and had a huge impact because they made records, you know, George Harrison, and so he was saying this is, you know, this is proof that I was right, and that, you know, marrying them nicely and following the regular principles. But they're an essential part of the movement, and they, you know, contributed tremendously, and are still contributing. Married couples and families.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Balaram Prabhu, I think.
So you have this case in the 6th canto of a Jamil seeing the man and the woman in the forest. But, I mean, such things were kind of uncommon at that time, but now such things are extremely common. And devotees living in big cities, pretty much there's like no way of not seeing such things. It's a daily, it may be, you know, if devotees are going out and this and that. So how are they supposed to, you know, process that or deal with that?
Vijay Prabhu one time, you know, he said, you see a lot of things in book distribution. You see a lot of attractive people. And he said one thing that keeps him reminded is, he said, if you just imagine them with the skin off, you know, so you'll really see what a body is, you know. And then so every time I, you know, go through that, I always think of that, you know. But also we need to put the philosophy into practice, you know. The body is nothing but a dead lump of matter without the soul. And I know sometimes it's difficult to put it in practice, but, you know, and for me, I think the more you just kind of get older, you kind of just, you don't see it as attractive as, you know, someone who's younger. But, yeah, and just because, you know, Rajendra Nandana Prabhu, he said, you know, when you're driving, you see that, you know. But he said, the first time, it's you look naturally. He said, but the second time, that's Maya, you know. So we see it all the time, but we don't have to, you know, let it bother us so much or cover us, or, you know. And I heard Rajendra Nana Prabhu one time, he said, just call out for Srila Prabhupada. Call out to your spiritual master and they'll help you. Did you have any ideas? Or no? Dujamani and then Virachandra Prabhu.
I was just having a realization when we are out on that Harinam. And you know how Krishna says in the Gita, the text 262, Daito Vishayan Pumsa, is that it starts with the mind. If you really try to enjoy the object that you see, then it goes into the heart, it goes into the mind, and it creates an impression. But if you're not, if you're just there to spread the holy name, and if you're not, actually you're controlling your senses, you're not there to enjoy, then it doesn't create an impression. And even though you see so much of the, how to put that, so much, you know, naked body, this and that, so much madness, it doesn't create an impression, so it kind of bounces off your consciousness. So that's something I was thinking about. Also, one time in my life experience, I was walking through like a forest, and we were young with my friends. We were climbing the trees and everything. And at some point, we climbed the tree, and we saw someone also indulging in sinful activities of similar kind. So that's. I didn't know that story. I wish.
Amoga Lila Prabhu, he mentions this alleyway is bad. This parking lot right here, he's seen a few activities there, you know. So be careful. Don't look out the window 2 in the morning.
Okay. I remember, you know, years gone by, we used to do this Harinam on New Year's Eve all the time. So I used to do more of the leading. You know, this time I led it first and once. So anyway, we're walking down the Fifth Avenue on the sidewalk, and there were crowds like there are now. So we came to the corner, and it was a red light, you know. And in front of us were a whole passel, you know, a whole group of scantily clad ladies, you know, just like that. And I was just, you know, we were just chanting at the top of our lungs and everything, and and you could just feel the protection. You know, there wasn't the slightest thing, you know, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. If you're just a little absorbed in the holy name and you're chanting from the bottom of the heart, that's the protection. And since, you know, movement started, that was a factor. You could see the devotees were able to stay steady. They were doing so much Harinam and chanting, you know. In fact, there was. This is interesting. When we hear this song, Yamuna singing, right? Govinda Mari Purusha. So one devotee, I know his name, but I won't mention it. He was a famous Kirtaniya at that time. And he wrote to Prabhupada, and he said, Prabhupada, you know, we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you know, Lord Chaitanya you heard a woman's voice, and it was almost, you know, oh, I would have died. But, and also elsewhere it said we shouldn't hear a woman singing, so why should we do this? But this is different, you know. Just like you're out on Harinam, you're chanting, you know, everyone's 20, 21, you know, young, and the ladies are there chanting, and we're chanting, you know. But it's brother and sister. Nobody's attracted. It's Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So similarly, this song is so completely transcendental. And the bottom line is Prabhupada relished it so much. When it was first played, I mean, I think I remember tears were coming to his eyes when he heard it the first time. You know, it's like it's a concert. You know, he loved it. So with a little attention and understanding, you can feel the nectar of Krishna consciousness just obliterating that. You know.
Very wonderful.
I want to add almost the same. Dravida Prabhu told that I know I had this experience on Harinam that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he so merciful, he so happy. Then even if you see something like his holy name is protect us, it's reality.
You know, and you know, lusty men, when they see this, they drool over these girls, you know. But the devotees, we just feel so sad for them, you know. You have to dress a certain way to attract a man, and And the whole situation just doesn't make sense. You're there to get a woman or a man, and then you meet at a club or a bar, you get intoxicated, and then you expect to have like a nice, deep relationship from that. You know, anyway, it's a crazy world out there. Okay, thank you for your time and attention. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.